Boy, it's been a long time since I've done one of these, hasn't it? How do I go into this and keep it short? Well, you know, with me, that's impossible, right? Man, I was in a really, really bad way as far as job and money and everything. And it's a long story. Should I start over? Um, yeah, well, if you notice, I haven't posted Fez Night in quite a while. And when I don't do Fez Nights, it's either, mostly these days, if I don't do one, it's because I just don't feel like it. I don't have any, I don't feel positive. I don't have anything positive to say. I'm just depressed. Now, if this were my job, I would rally, the show must go on because I'm getting paid to do it. But I'm not getting paid to do it. This is sort of a hobby. I do it for fun. And if I'm not having fun, I'm not doing it. So, Kong Island was in real, real peril this time. Again. And I, the, the job I have, or had, I really liked. I really liked that job. I really liked the people. But the pay really, really sucked. And plus the hours at one point were cut. And I just wasn't making it. I had some income that was coming in from the side, but that stopped coming in. A guy stopped calling me for work. Basically, I think he kind of screwed up. Anyway, that's a whole different story. And so I know that where I was working. So notice how I'm speaking in past tense. Uh, Nobody's gotten a raise for years. When I was hired, I took that job at the pay rate out of desperation. My unemployment was about to run out. And so I was there for about 2.5 years now. And no raise, of course. Nobody else has gotten raises. People that were there years before me haven't gotten any raises. And but I knew that my value, my value as a welder, as the type of welding that I do, was far below what it was, and I was very confident that they would not be able to replace me for the same amount they were paying me. And so I figured I had a good case to ask for a raise. And, excuse me, involved a lot of mind games, man. And I'm not really good at this, but once you get started, you can't back down. And you gotta show you mean business. They strung me along for months, not giving me a yes or a no, because they knew that they could not replace me for the same amount of money. I was asking for X amount, and which I thought I gotta ask for this. This is like the minimum I could ask for, and still be able to pay my rent and feed myself and just general stuff. I mean, not even going out to eat or anything special like trips, vacations. I ran this stuff through my head so many times, like whether I was making the right choice. Do I need to move out of here? Find a cheaper place, which is not really that possible unless I rent a room somewhere. So the idea is like the U.S. government. Do you just keep cutting austerity, like everybody is trying to do around the world, or do you try to bring in some additional income? So I asked for the raise. They strung me along for months. They wouldn't give me a yes or a no. I know that they even brought in some people to interview, and they couldn't find anybody that would work for the same amount that I was working for. Finally, a friend of mine said that you're not getting a straight answer from them until you actually have an offer from another company. So I was looking, and then luckily I had a couple interviews. I'm going on with this for about 5 minutes. Just feel free to skip ahead. It's because I haven't done one of these in so long too. It's just kind of fall out of the groove. Um, and so I went for an interview, and I was open with them all the time. I said, "Look, I need a raise. If I'm not getting one, I'm going to start seeking employment elsewhere." And so I had an interview, and one of the tough. I had two interviews, and God, both are kind of like neat stories. I know you're here to watch Fez Night. I haven't pulled out Fez yet. Should I start over? God, my brain's like mush. I'm feeling so much better now, though. I mean, every day I was like sick with worry. So I'll talk about the thing that went successfully. One of the toughest interviews I've ever had. And not that I've had that many welding interviews in my life. I did work for the same company for over 25 years. But these guys wanted me to, on paper, do a long addition, which is no biggie, but it was just strange. And then the fractions, a whole series of fractions, where I'm glad I remembered how to do this, is convert the fractions, find the lowest common denominator or something like that, and all that rigmarole. Luckily I remembered how to do that. And then look at a drawing and then do like a rendering of what the part's supposed to look like from looking at this little small blueprint. And I was like, wow. And then an pretty intensive interview where I sat down with a guy that later I learned was the owner, which I'm glad at the time I didn't know he was the owner, because that would have made me feel even more nervous. And they were showing me this diagram of this like rack-looking thing, and they asked me, okay, how would you start? Things all bolted down. Where would you start to weld? What would you do? I was like, whoa. So I passed the interview. Then I got called back for a drug test and a physical. And what else? It was a drug test, a physical, and the welding test. And in all the years I've welded, I've never taken a formal welding test. The other job that I interviewed, I had to take a welding test there too, but that was a whole different story. I had to weld overhead MIG welding, where it has all the sparks flying, and I didn't have in my leathers or any of that good stuff. So overhead welding, you're like this, trying to lay a weld, and I haven't done that since my early 20s. And all these sparks are falling on me. My shirt caught fire. I've got burns up and down this arm. I don't know if you could see, it's in black and white, but I think you can sort of make out there. This is weeks ago, but I've got a scar here. And then, I don't know, see, black and white, bad camera, but I've got a small scar there. Anyway, but I just kept welding, man. Even when I was just put my shirt out and just kept welding. Yeah, MIG welding overhead, man. It's like you're in a shower of hot metal. They call it slag, And if you got the right equipment and everything, you're cool. All I brought was my welding helmet, and I was wearing a long sleeve shirt, but it wasn't for. Anyway, so the other welding test was more my speed. It was TIG welding. But I've never taken a formal welding test where they take it off and they either brake test it or they x-ray it. So I was pretty nervous about that. Meanwhile, the company that I was working for started pushing, okay, so we want to know when you're going to leave. And they already had a guy lined up to replace me. They are going to pay him more than what I was presently making. But I'm quite sure. And people ask me, well, how do you know that? No, they told me. Because my immediate, the plant supervisor, that was part of my bargaining thing. I said, you cannot replace me for the same amount you're paying me now. And so I was right about that. Even the CEO came to talk to me of our company. The company's had so much trouble over the years that the CEO, he does not have the authority, which is so strange. He doesn't have the authority to do raises. That's up to the owners themselves. And fucking assholes. Greedy sons of bitches. Boy, was I pissed off. Oh. I'm going to see if I can find something. So, they were pushing me out, and boy, was I like between a rock and a hard place. And I called them, the company I interviewed for. I passed the drug test, yay! I passed the physical, yay! But I had not heard about the welding test, and I was so stressed out, so worried, because if I did not get a job with them, the company that I was with was already trying to push me out the door. And that's what you get. I mean, it's just so spiteful. I mean, at first, my immediate supervisor says, "Oh, well, you'll be able to stay." I said, "No, that's not HR. They're just bitter, spiteful people. They're trying to send a strong message. Don't you dare ask for a raise." That was the message, loud and clear. And believe me, everybody that I talked to pretty much got that message. It's funny, after people know you're leaving, that you're going to quit, and that you were asking for a raise, people come up and start giving you their stories. For me, I'm one of those people. They'll come and share things with me. They started telling me their stories about how upset they were, and and how long they went without a raise, etc., etc. So this is, I've never had to do this either. They wanted a letter of resignation. So I did a handwritten letter. My printer doesn't work, and it's terrible scrawls, but I wrote, "I, David Max Blakeney, hereby resign my position as welder at Technologies on this day, Thursday, November 7th, the year 2013. I submit this letter with much regret." Can't read my own handwriting. "I submit this letter with much regret, but due to the ownership's draconian compensation policies, I must seek a fair wage elsewhere." They made me write a resignation letter, so I decided I'd try to get a dig in elsewhere. Well, happy ending. I passed my welding test. I really wish I could have stayed at my other company because I liked it there. And I'll be honest, it was easy. And I was the only welder there. I mean, there were days that were hard. Yeah, you had to get something done, and they were stressful. But more or less, I had a handle on it. And I was the welder, Had to hold this large area to myself. I really liked it, but the pay sucked. So this new company, these guys are serious. I mean, this is government contract work. The company is like pretty busy. They have several shifts, and so it's going to take a lot of adjustment. And I'm worried, but I'll tell you, this is much better than the type of worry I was going through before about losing my place and not having a place to go, not having a job. And I'll tell you, I talked about prayer before. Boy, did I pray! Boy, did I pray! And it, there's a thing, like people talk about luck. Well, for me, luck is like being lucky at gambling, or I don't know. I prefer to think of as grace. That sometimes we are allowed to live in grace. Sometimes we are shown mercy. Yeah, it's not like rubbing a lamp or anything like that. But man, I'll tell you, whatever you want to call it, some type of self hypnosis or whatever, it gets me through sometimes. All right. I should just divide this in two. Anyway, you've sat here for 15 minutes talking about the long drama that I went through in between. Hold on, I got to get something. Talking about the long drama that I've been through. And I know, I bring it on myself. I really do. All right, time to don the fez. I got my hair cut really short, and I don't know. Fez seems better when I have a little bit of hair coming out. I'm so vain. Time to don the fez. Greetings, fellow citizens. This is Citizen Kong, and welcome to another Fez Night. Tonight's Fez Night shall be called Fez Night Rises Again. Excuse me. Oh. A little coffee came up there. Oh. Oh, yeah, I know. Too much information, right? All right. Yeah, what a Fez night, huh? There's going to be more of me not wearing the fez than there is going to be of me wearing the fez. So, I want to thank Monk. Monk, thanks for stepping up and doing a Fez night, because I haven't done a Fez night in quite a while. And there's something else I was going to say. But yeah, thanks for stepping up and doing the Fez night. And now the whole thing is like dogs and puppies and dogs. Too much cuteness. Ah! Such a change from the angry dummy days, isn't it? Such a change. I gotta make a mention of L. Brookman. L. Brookman. Hold on. Let's see if I can find this. All right. Say hello to L. Brookman. He's on Facebook. Paul Brookman. He's also on Twitter, and he's got a blog, and it's like his own website, lbrookman.com or something like that. Let's see. Anyway, you know how L. Brookman and I differ politically in many different ways. We've even had some sort of like words over the years. But since, but is usually that sort of thing, at least in the classy old days, people that disagreed, in media, and I guess we're sort of in media, right? Maybe I'm getting an inflated head, but this is kind of media, right? Blogging. At the end of the day, I have to say I like L. Brookman. And I admire his writing. Now, as growing up as a teenager, I fancied myself a writer, and I've gotten some compliments later when I wrote papers for class. When I wrote a paper for a fine arts class, and the teacher asked me if I was a writer. I said no, I'm a welder. But anyway. I would think, that since I enjoyed writing and I enjoy reading, that if I pay L. Brookman a compliment on his writing, I think that's coming from a pretty good place, even if I do say so myself. And so I highly recommend you reading L. Brookman's blog. There was and the ones where he is not political are the ones that I tend to enjoy the most, because when he's doing his political sort of thing, I find myself not in enjoying mode, but in debate mode. Like, in my mind, point, counterpoint. How do I respond to this? Where is he wrong? When it's not political opinion, I can just simply be entertained. I can put my mind's eye in what he's describing. And a good writer can do that. It sort of creates a little film in your head. And L. Brookman can do that. One in particular I really enjoyed is when he talked about himself as a child, and I don't know how, artistic license, how, we're all allowed that, even, autobiographies, there's going to be a little bit of artistic license, little fudging things and all that. But the thing about when he was a child, was it a bar or a diner? I think it was a bar. He had a coloring book, or there was a cook back there, so it might have been a diner. And the coloring book, was it Huckleberry Hound? I remember Huckleberry Hound. And about coloring within the lines. And the old man who told you not to listen to the cook and just color where you want. And then later you alluded to the fact that this man was in some type of trouble, the crazy bearded man. And I would like to think that he was some sort of communist dissident of some sort, some rabble rouser that the right-wing establishment was trying to put away. And here he was, this crazy leftist was giving you that bit of wisdom, is don't worry so much about coloring between the lines. And I also enjoyed your poem about the woman. What did you call that one? The whore in the Ford. I really enjoyed that one. So I'll put a link to lbrookman.com. And look at this, fancy this guy. He's got his own website. And so I'll put that in there. And I want to say hello to Trisha Kitty. I hope you're feeling better. The woman that shall not be mentioned. Shoot, I probably got mold in this place, but we lived in the same apartment, same cottages. This is a little small cottage, a lot like you would see in one of those noir films, Southern California, the L.A. noir, back in the late 40s, early 50s. In fact, in the movie The Big Lebowski, he lived in a similar situation. A courtyard, rows of cottages. Of course, his cottage seemed to be in the movie much bigger than mine. Anyway, the one that shall not be mentioned, her cottage, there was a mold problem in there. And I'll tell you, I did not give her enough the sympathy I should have, which is why we're not together now. But the woman was a hypochondriac in many ways, and but I should have been. Anyway, I know that mold spores, toxic mold, is a real health hazard, and believe me, landlords do not want to deal with that, and the landlord here did not want to deal with that sort of thing. So I hope you're feeling better. Yeah, the woman that should not be mentioned ended up moving and getting a couple months rent free, is what she kind of worked out, just to be quiet and go away. Who knows what I'm dealing with, but those of you that really know me, I'm such a slob. Most of it comes from being a recluse and a hermit. Because when you don't have visitors, it's just so easy to say, oh, should I make it for 2014? Try to have more visitors? Hey, I went out for the second time with a dinner date, even though I couldn't afford it. Actually, she paid, but the time before last I paid, with a very nice lady, and I think that we could have a friendship. I don't know, I seem to enjoy myself. She seems to be enjoying herself when we've had dinner a couple times. And this is somebody that was a former, in the past, she was a boss, my boss. And but real neat lady, the kind I like. She's not Irish, like extraction, but everything else is pretty good, smart and creative and motivated. All the opposites of me. And she's younger. It's hard for me to get used to that the women in my age bracket, a lot of them are grandmothers. I just can't face it. It wasn't so bad with the woman that should not be mentioned because she never had any children. So there was never this whole meeting the son that's like a full-grown man, and he's got a wife and a baby and all that. Oh geez. So yeah. So now that I've got another job lined up, and knock wood, that all goes well, that I can hack it, I'll be able to afford to do a few things. Yeah. Oh, by the way, this is even for more money than what I was asking for at the other place. So in the long run, it's good, but it's a super long commute. And that's why I went back to talking about it, because it's been on my mind so much lately. So Tricia, I hope you're feeling better. Yeah, that toxic mold can be a real serious thing. And yeah, the woman that I had dinner with the other night started talking a little bit about, I don't know how she got me to do this, but I guess it's the whole thing. I had to sort of because she asked me, she knows that I've done metal work. She's seen pictures of some of the metal work I did when I was working for her. It involved craft, and so she asked me, "Have you gotten started? Have you been doing anything?" And I said, "Well, over the years, I spent a lot of time on the internet, and I just sort of just said, look, lately, more than metal work, what I do is I spend time on the internet, and I talked a little bit about my YouTube channel." And she uses Facebook because for her business she has to use social media, but mostly that's why she uses it, not to entertain herself. And so I kind of told her I try to keep my Facebook world and my YouTube world separate because, frankly, I'm a grown man, and I put a fez on and I talk into a camera. And I respect this woman. She's a grown-up lady, And how do you defend this sort of thing? Should I just in case, just for women I meet in the future, should I just take down my channel and take off just delete my account entirely? And at some point I'm going to hit 1,000 videos. Hey, I better get busy. Before YouTube goes away, and get 1,000 videos. So I don't know whether to. She seemed interested in wanting to see what I do on YouTube, and I was being cagey. I wasn't going to tell her where to go or how to find me on YouTube. But I also let her know, if you really look for me, I'm easy. My tracks are all over the internet. It's not hard to find me. If you know my name. So anyway, I guess that's it. What I wanted to say a little bit about was, this is all past news. The government shut down. And what was I thinking before I turned the camera on? I was thinking that how frustrating it is and was, and even at the aftermath, I saw a clip of Ted Cruz on Jay Leno, and he's trying to spin it like the government shutdown was not his idea. The reason why it happened is because Obama and the Democrats refused to compromise. Well, the whole Affordable Care Act was a compromise. What we really wanted was a universal health care system, like they have in Canada or the UK or Sweden or France. Any advanced industrialized country. We want something like that. But the Affordable Care Act is a compromise. And the worst thing about the Affordable Care Act that I don't like is the being forced to buy insurance. Is basically they'll fine you if you don't buy health insurance. And who came up with that idea? Well, I won't say Mitt Romney's smart enough to come up with that on his own, but that was what they did in Massachusetts with Romney Care. And all this time when Romney was running for office against President Obama for president, somehow he was able to distance himself from that, criticizing the president's health care plan, when the worst component of it came out of Massachusetts with Mitt Romney. It's still amazing to me that Fox News, that the right are able to separate those two. So Ted Cruz is saying that the White House wouldn't compromise, and I say the Affordable Health Care Act was the compromise. That is it, because the right. A compromise is when both sides aren't happy. The right didn't get what they wanted. Well, actually, they just wanted nothing to do with it, anything Obama does. So they're the ones not willing to compromise, really. The Democrats made concessions and allowed that shit Romney Care part to be part of the Affordable Care Act. And so it just amazes me. I was on Facebook and I had a little discussion with Jack Luck, Heather. She's on Facebook as Heather, and about the media. you know, whether to trust any news source at all. And I basically, if you're going to use, look, you could just say that all the media is just puppets, you know, part of some major scheme or something, and and just call it a good one, you know. I don't call it a good one, just call it over. And you know, just let's not even bother following the news. It's all lies anyways, everything. But I still argue that if you follow the money, you at least look into where the sources are. Avoid these extremist type places. And if you do find, like, let's say the Drudge Report, which is like right-wing propaganda, in my opinion, or Fox News. But if Fox News and Mother Jones agree on the same story, then it's probably true. You know? But I would rather go to more mainstream. And this is what they're always talking about, mainstream, lamestream, you know. But like if the BBC, and like I told her, if it's an American news corporation, they probably are being influenced by big business, by corporations. So if it has anything to do with big pharma or the banks or anything like that, take what they say with a grain of salt. But you could probably be okay with them reporting on casualties in natural disasters, things like that, you know. I don't know. It's just the conspiracy minded. Oh, by the way, and I want to say to John Cox, I did watch JFK finally after all these years. And I think I alluded to, I said there was something up with that the JFK assassination, we weren't told the truth, but I just didn't really seem to want to spend too much time on it. It's one of the few conspiracies that I do believe there is a conspiracy. But yeah, that got me really thinking. And more I say, yeah, there's definitely something up with that. But on the conspiracy thing in general, you know, for the most part, I think they're a bunch of crackpots, and when somebody's like, you can tell they're a conspiracy nut, you just need to just know to walk away. You know, there's no dealing with that. So I found this cool thing. I guess it was on Facebook, and do I read this all? I mean, who is in there that believes? Like, in the comment section, if you want, put yourself down as one of these people that believes in this. And I promise I won't make fun of you. Believes in any of these conspiracies. I do believe, though, in the JFK thing. And I really, you know, the amazing thing, and I have to agree with Oliver Stone on this, and I know he's like the Vietnam War and all that, and, you know, he's of that generation. But it really, and this is what he was getting across, and it seemed very true to me, is that John F. Kennedy was trying to do too much for the good. And the powers that be. Now, this sounds conspiracy, but the organizations like, you know, and we know about Edgar J. Hoover. We know this is true. We know this happens. That this is not a conspiracy, that Edgar J. Hoover held a lot of power and would use his power to get his way with other branches of government. He would lean on people. He would get stuff on them. We know that. And so it would not be such a stretch of the imagination to say that there were people that were doing the same to John F. Kennedy. That he was too willing to try to end the Cold War. That he was willing to work with the Russians. And these men did not like that. The idea that he might have gone after, he was maybe start going after and end the Federal Reserve, which I read some. Now, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. It's one of these things I got on one of these weird deals that could have been a propaganda or something, but it was an anti-Federal Reserve sort of thing, but it seemed interesting, and if somebody can confirm or deny this, that Abraham Lincoln was talking about doing something with the banks, and he was killed, and John F. Kennedy was talking about doing something about the banks, and he was killed. That's aside from, and just imagine if JFK would have lived with all those things he was talking about doing, or trying to do. You know, despite his personal life and him cheating on his wife and, you know, the rich kid and all that stuff, I just look at that administration and I go, what a time that was. And what a terrible, terrible thing it was to see the optimism of a generation, shattered by the assassination of John F. Kennedy. Okay, so this is an open letter. To the Freemasons, the Illuminati, Scientology, FEMA, the New World Order, the Federal Reserve, Citigroup, Halliburton, Google, the Vatican, Bilderberg, Walmart, the Rothschilds, the Knights Templar, Hart, the UN, Skull and Bones, Bohemian Grove, the Koch brothers, George Soros, the Trilateral Commission, the Knights of Malta, the CFR, ExxonMobil, the Zionists, the Viral VRIL Society, the Lizard People, and everyone else who secretly controls the U.S. government. Can you please get your shit together? This is embarrassing. So, is there anybody on that list that you agree, that you believe in that? I know, Jeff, you got that Zionist thing. Yeah. Yeah, I myself say there's stuff up, you know me with the corporate stuff, like the ExxonMobil, and I don't think Google controls the government, but I just know that there's real corporation problems with lobbyists where they give a lot of money to government. Do we have any? Do I have any Lizard People fans in my circle, in the people that watch Fez Night? Anyway, I better go pull the clothes out of the laundry, and this has been a long Fez Night, and longer than I would like it to be. I know, longer than you would like it to be. All right, everybody. Thanks for watching. Fez Night rides again. Have a great week. Cheers.